Good morning from New Mexico. All right, this is the third time I'm recording this. I would say this is some sort of divine timing, creative manifestation sort of a situation. And I love talking about the subject, so the re-recording of it doesn't irritate me at all. In fact, I'm like, okay, let's do it. What irritates me is that my planner organizer, that type A side, that these videos, the previous two videos, have been hidden from me. One of them I had as a webinar last year to market deep play, disappeared off the face of the earth. I back things up. Have I told you that it's not as strong as it used to be, but I have a type A side. Like, I back things up. But no, the universe was like, no. So anyway, I'm just saying that because I feel like that weaves into all of this piece about sometimes it will totally go into holy deficit that I'll talk about. But I feel like many times things happen or we have blinders that's supposed to create some sort of a process. And so, as I say, I've had this happen specifically, artistically, where you think this is going on. So then you have these thought patterns because that's what we do. But actually this was happening. And if you knew this was happening, you would have had this other rollout, but for some reason you needed that rollout. So anyway, here we are again. And actually somebody in the group suggested that I write a book about all of this. And that's probably something that might happen at some point. But anyway, rabbit hole ready. So fun, so fun, so fun. So what does rabbit hole ready mean? What do I mean by that? It means that you approach life, and I've said this before, you'll hear me weave things together, but I really do think that life is this dialogue, that being alive in these bodies, it's animism really, is that I believe that everything around us is alive. There's going to be different energy signatures to things. So like a rock, you're potentially going to have a different engagement with rock and water, with rock and water, as opposed to maybe coming and going on a hike with me. It's not all going to be the same, but I actually believe that there is these animating forces and energies and everything, and that some of them belong to you, some of them want to play with you, some of them want to initiate you, some of them want to help you get rid of your older energies that aren't in resonance with who you are now. And so our job is to move through the world like that. Now, in our culture at this time, that's completely out of control with consumption and greed and unconsciousness, that's not seen as, there's no way that could coexist with this rampant, unchecked materialism. They don't coexist together, because if you're going to use resources to just for your personal gain, that doesn't recognize a reciprocity. That recognizes a power over, a superiority, control, and a using. It's a using situation. And if you actually believe that you're in relationship and that there are exchanges to these relationships to have them be in good relationship with these relations, then you're going to approach life in a really different way. And so in a way, I like to say that this is not an intermission. This is a way of life. And I actually think that you can do this anywhere and everywhere, no matter how your life is set up. I think even if you have some structures that are more traditional with the way that money and resources come into your life, and you have families and jobs that have certain time structures and things, you still can approach life this way. And so the rabbit hole ready piece is that you basically are moving through the world with this expectation, with this desire, with this focus, with this intention that you will be met, and that things and experiences and energies and perspectives want to play with you. And sometimes you go down this rabbit hole of things happening that you didn't see coming. And it's amazing. And that's another piece of all of this is, and some of this was in the out of left field video too, but the really interesting stuff is in the arenas of what we don't know. And we have a culture that's so wackadoodles about control and perceived power in certain ways that there's so many messages about how valuable it is to be superior by knowing things. And it's very intellect. When it's not, our culture doesn't say go instinct, because go instinct is probably going to have you doing some different things than what the culture says is valuable. They're not going to be able to control you and sell you things. But this knowing things and being vulnerable and less powerful and less valuable if you don't know things, we've all been trained in this. We've all fucking been trained in this. But the thing is, the really interesting stuff happens in the areas that you're not familiar with, that you don't know, or that you have some pieces, you have a container like this domain knowledge, but then out of that container of knowledge that you have comes these potentials, these things that slam together, these synergies of pieces that didn't usually connect, and they make this whole new thing that neither you nor I could anticipate. And that's really the magic. That's really the magic of the rabbit hole ready, is that you want to have an attitude as you move through the world and energies and synchronicities and signs. You want to have this attitude of, wow, like what's sparkling, what's calling me, what's drawing me, what's interesting, what could that mean? And being really open for these epiphanies, these ahas. And they don't happen all the time, but you really need to make a fertile field of potential, as I say. Be fertile in where you are and what you do and who's around you and what you're exploring. And anybody who's here, you guys are already going to be fertile fields of potential. You're just feeding it more, and you're having playmates, and I'm sending you cool shit in the mail. We're in a field together, this field that transforms us. But being rabbit hole ready really is about this excitement of sliding down that slide and going, I don't know where I'm going, but oh my gosh, and not having expectation about it. I mean, that's part of it too. So that's the overall rabbit hole ready perspective about this. And then, so there's three things that I think that I've learned over time, learned from other teachers, that I think really help us to apply this, because application is important. I can sort of say, yeah, move around the world and like let it enchant you. And you might go, yeah, what the fuck does that mean? And it does have a lot to do with being able to read energy and animation, reading that something is calling you. It can be subtle, but even like the tree leaves sometimes will go, hey, because I'm a big fairy person, so the natural world has but it's about reading that animation. As one of my teachers, Beatrix, said, following the chi. To follow the energy that's yours, and it's different for everybody. That's the thing. It's not the same. What you're being called to will not be the same as what I'm being called to. It's very unique, and that's part of what's cool. It's like your magic mystery tour, your unique movie, and I have my unique movie, and that's why in deep play, it's really fun because we get to hear and be part of other people's movies. So we get more yummy. All right, so rabbit hole ready. Let's see. So we're going to start with the small is the mighty. Then we'll go to the carrot principle, and then we'll go to holy deficits. So the small is the mighty. Oh, so good. I first learned about this like 2 decades ago when Carolyn Myss became in my radar, and I love Carolyn Myss. Not all of it. There's like 3 or 4 of her things that she's done that are the standouts, and then the other stuff and some of the things I've listened to, they don't quite hit the mark, but really good. I'm listening to the new Sacred Language one right now. It's actually quite good. She's just fucking amazing. And so in these, as I say, this was the first time that this consciousness came, and she was talking about spiritual paradox, which is baseline again to being rabbit hole ready, is the value systems that the general culture has put out, the externalized sense of worth and accomplishment. We're going to work with your own metrics of success later in the course, but these externalized ideas, and these ideas in certain ways, certain things about money, power, relationships, what your body looks like, all these sorts of externalized things. And I'm not saying that we can't have some of that. We're human. We want some feedback. I want some feedback. But having that be where you are predominantly sourced from, and then having it be from a very controlling, judgmental place is what we don't want. And so this small is mighty piece is about a new value system. And it's about recognizing the paradox of how sometimes spiritually, like what looks like maybe the most intimidating path is absolutely the one you want to do. And like the path that looks the safe, and sometimes we need tender and we need cuddly. You have to read this situation by situation. This is not an ever always, but sometimes things that look safer absolutely aren't. And that's one of the big lies that the overculture gives, is that, if you're a good little soldier, you go to your job, you put your retirement in. Well, Enron, you're all old enough to remember Enron. The people got fucked. And they were good citizens. They were doing things right. But the system is designed to destroy real power and creativity. And so you're going to have to be strong also to be rabbit hole ready. You're going to have to find some inner courage about how to navigate and know things that most other people won't understand. I mean, that's why you need a community like we have here, and you need people in your life who will support you in doing these things that don't make sense from this. Am I going to make money from it? Is it going to give me more status? Is it going to do these things? And so the small is mighty is about spiritual paradox, where things that are new coming into your life will usually come in looking insignificant, strange, very unfamiliar. They don't come in like God's hands clapping and saying, this is going to change your whole life to a degree that you may not even be able to handle it. Okay, almost none of us have that level of courage and confidence, me included. I mean, I've done a lot of courageous things, and I feel like I'm on the edges of some other really big things. And if I knew how much they were going to change, probably part of my ego would be like, no, not doing it, going and hiding under the covers. I'm not leaving the house. So the small is mighty is really like looking at the world from kind of an upside down place and looking for that animation, and like I say, it can be really quiet. It can be, hey, but something wants you, and it doesn't make sense. Like use this term. I think of they, disrupt the power of they. That was something that came to me at one point. So they, like people have a lot of fear of being judged, particularly women. Women have a lot of training around trying to placate everybody else. So women have like this base terror about being judged, which fucks with our power. Um, and I'm not saying that men don't either, but men generally got different training than women in the West. And so this piece about disrupting the power of they. If something comes and you're like, oh, like your first thing is like, oh, that, ooh, what's that? It's like kind of sexy. It's like dating or something, like, oh, I'd like to dance with that. And then the mind starts going, oh, what will my neighbor think? What will my husband think? What will my mother-in-law think? What will my sister think? What will my colleagues think? You got to figure out how to go past that and disrupt the power of they and go, actually, what power do they have around any of this? Now, as I've said with small is mighty, it will come in looking strange. There's reasons for this. I'll explain in a minute, but it comes in looking maybe strange or insignificant. So that's absolutely a protective mechanism here. It is 100% a gift. So good, so good. Let's vogue for a minute. But it comes in looking insignificant, so here's the two protective places. One, so that you won't, run screaming the opposite way and say, oh, hell no, because you're not yet in touch with the person that this journey will take you on. And it will be a journey, and you will evolve through the journey. That whole crazy, I fucking have to be ready, it's the opposite of that. Like, you get kicked out of the nest, pushed off the cliff before you're ready, but you learn to trust. You learn that you'll have what you need and you need it. That's the whole game of life, and that's the whole game of being in authentic power. But so this part of you that's, if you actually, you're not resonant with where you're going to get with it, with the integration that will happen. So it does make sense that a part of you would be freaked out because you don't know that part of you yet, because you haven't gone on the journey. So the other piece that's protective, and this is enormous, and you beautiful humans that I'm talking to in deep play, there's a range of where you all are at with this. But there are people, depending on where you're at with it, that take up way too much fucking real estate in your psyche. They're not actually your allies. You chose them, you magnetized them, they made sense at different times in your development. And it's not an A to B, that whole, everything that you see is a reflection of you. And I don't believe that, actually. And I've not experienced that myself. I've had things that have come to me that have been so much healthier, i.e. my husband. My husband was on a different planet. He was so healthy. He was a gift to help me become healthier. We were not a vibrational match. I mean, there was great caring and connection, but healthiness-wise, oh, hell no. I was in pieces. I was a hot mess. And so sometimes you get gifts that are just to help you evolve. But we do choose people that make sense for where we're at developmentally, overall, mates, friends, work situations, those sorts of things. And so depending on at the different places that you've been in your evolution, there could be some people that are in their process, or maybe are fighting the process of their own self-authority, their own courage, their own self-love, their own confidence. And so when you start to evolve and start to do things that are bringing you more alive, bringing you more light, more confidence, that is the most triggering thing on the planet for somebody who is really still in their vulnerabilities, who doesn't know what the journey is, or doesn't know how to find their own sense of worth. So they may fight you with it. Also, depending, a lot of empaths here. Empaths tend to be overly responsible until they're integrated. Quite codependent, because they're trying to take care of the energy around them. So they're trying to fix those around them so that me feels better. So also some of the people in your life may really like the way you're serving them. I'm not saying that we don't tend to other people. I'm not saying that on any level. But we all know the difference when you're somebody's bitch. Hate to pull the Band-Aid off today. And you know, me and my family, whoo, I did that till I was about 40. So, so there's this piece about the protection and protecting you from some of the people. And I hope that most of you have people who are on your side. And I hope that most of you, as you're watching this, or at least you've got at least one person who's like on team you, gets you, supports you. I hope you can receive that. I hope you can receive that somebody's on your team. And like when they say to you, yeah, no, I really get it. I can see, and you know, and helps kind of strategize. And I hope that you can receive that, because if you have a critical mass of people who are running over you for their agendas, you may not trust that. So the small is mighty is protecting your vulnerabilities as you evolve. It's really actually quite gorgeous. It's totally gorgeous. I mean, the setup is a perfect storm of fantasticness to let you evolve. It's protecting you, your ego, your vulnerabilities, and then it's protecting you from some of the people around you who are afraid of you leaving them or eclipsing them or showing them where they're not in their power. If you get more in your power and your joy and your passion and your confidence and your intuition, and there's wounded, I mean, we're all wounded, but there's also, it's our job to receive the support, to become more integrated, to do what we came to do and be who we came to be. That's why you're here. So the small is mighty, gorgeous. Let's see, 2 stories about the small is mighty. Horses, and I've told you stories about horses before, but just basically, you know, small is mighty. This was an unknown territory for me. I went into horses at you know, my mid-30s, and I didn't go in to ride. I went into like commune, which is a whole nother thing, but I didn't know about horses. Nobody in my life really knew about horses. I wasn't in the horse world. None of my families are horsey people, really. And so, you know, nobody like made fun of it, belittled it. I think people just kind of went, huh, well, that's kind of weird, but okay, go do you. You want the people who say, go do you. And then the horses took me to Texas to live. Then I moved to New Mexico. You know, they opened up all of these sacred pilgrimages that went on, experiences, power, self-knowing, out of the box, epic. But it came really like, oh, horses. Oh. You know, it really didn't, I didn't realize that the spiritual lightning was coming, and it was good. But I followed it and followed it and followed it and followed it. And that was like 5 years or something. I mean, this also doesn't happen in a weekend. Like, you apprentice to these things. The other thing that I was thinking of is about the photography for the Oracle of Initiation deck, the earthen body photos that were the nudes, and then the painted body that were down in the graffiti tunnels and on the land in New Mexico. Those came out of, again, kind of a small is mighty, didn't know, you know, it's kind of breadcrumbs, golden breadcrumbs, as Natalia says. I was down in Terralingua, which is this little mining town that's right, it's in Big Bend, either in or adjacent to Big Bend National Park. Rio Grande is down there. This is bottom of Texas, and Mexico's on the other side. And it was this old funky mining town, and I went down there for Dia de los Muertos, for the Days of the Dead, and it was amazing, the old cemetery, and I took it. Oh, it's amazing. But there was a woman there who had this was camera, this wasn't iPhone stuff. She had a camera, and we bonded. She and her husband and I bonded, and we ended up dancing in the dark together, and she had her camera set in a certain way where light emanations and things came off of us with the ambient light and the movement in the darkness. It has to do with ISO and things. And I was gobsmacked. It's like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. You know, like some part of me recognized how cool that was. And so this was when I was doing a ton of traveling. And then I was in Sedona in Arizona, and I had been taking sacred selfies. And this was before selfies, the word selfie existed. So in the Oracle book, they're called monkey shots. That's what my girlfriend called them, monkey shots. And so I was taking monkey shots. And they first were very practical, like for my family. And then they became more artistic as it evolved, because it was fun and it was weird. And you didn't know what you were going to get, because I like weird and, you know, it's an odd angle. And I found in Sedona this construction area where they were storing construction stuff, and they had these lights, nighttime construction lights, and they were still blinking. And so there was these kind of orangey red lights. And so my sacred selfie part went, oh, that's fucking cool. Let's go there at dark and park, and let's go take some pictures with these lights and see what happens. And so then again, I got some more of that light emanation thing happening. And I went, oh. And so then it became a thing that it was now having enough animation, enough draw, that it was like, how can I figure out how to do this? Like, what's happening here? Why is this happening? And it had a lot to do with dark, and then some ambient light, some light coming in the dark. You needed both for the camera to automatically do this. And so that was, as I say, there was these little stepping stones that happened that really created this, and it was awesome. So that was small was mighty. I had no idea that I'd end up taking 70,000 ritualistic photos in both of the series, but it did it, you know, kind of snuck up on me. It was a sneaker attack, a sneaker transformation, which pretty much we all need. Like pray for the angel of uncertainty, as Sally Mann says. Pray for the sneaker attack of transformation. I mean, really, that's what deep play is. I'm trying to do a sneaker attack for us of getting into our joy so that we can heal that other old stuff. The door just cracked. The door likes it. Okay, small is mighty. Okay, 2, carrot principle. And as I say, these all weave together to a certain degree. So the carrot principle. Love the carrot principle. So the carrot principle is basically, it's kind of a bait and switch in a good way, where there is, you know, this say the carrot dangling, like there's something, you know, you're a horse and you want the carrot, but there's something that's calling you that has animation. It's back to animation. Basically, your life and your deep play will be so rich if you can trust the animation and follow it. If you can trust the things that say, hey, I'm yours, and not try to pregame what everything's going to be and just go into the experience. But so the carrot principle is this: there's this thing that calls you, this thing that wants you to come, this event, a person, a new process, something. It calls you, and so you go do that thing. But with the carrot principle, the way that I look at it is that thing was the way station. That thing was the crossroads. And actually there was something that you couldn't see until somehow you got there, literally or metaphorically, and that you then see the thing that's over there. And I have a very literal example of this, a very, very literal, I couldn't see something till I saw it. But so basically, but the key piece of this is that you go, so there's point A. So point A is carroting you. So you go to point A. So you get to point A, and then point A lets you see point B. And no disrespect to point A. Point A was important, but like point B or point C or point Z was actually where this journey was going. And the journeys never end. But you know what I mean, is that A was the gateway drug. It was the thing that calls you in, and then you can see the other thing. And so the key piece though is you don't have the expectation that there's a finality with A. Figure that A is part of this domino journey, and then also don't expect that you know where A is, where the next jump is going to be. That's really important. Don't go, well, there's A, and in following A, you may have lots of different tangents and channels, but be open with being rabbit hole ready to the fact that A may send you over here, and you didn't even know that it was coming. So examples, a couple of examples. Oh, I love it when I can't read my writing. Oh, and one other piece about this, and I'll tell you examples. So there was this amazing article that I found some years ago about these artificial intelligence engineers, and they did this online game. I've talked about this before, but I'll talk about it again. This online game where there was these little, like 16 little cubes of little amorphous computer generated shapes. And in playing the game, you chose two of these shapes that you just liked. You just like, I like that shape. You chose two, then the computer would generate the baby of those two, and then you'd get 16 more. So like whatever characteristics those two amorphous shapes had. And they wanted to see how long it would take to do this kind of hopscotch until these amorphous shapes became something that was more recognizable. Now, I don't believe that, I'll go try to find the article. I'll go find the article and post it if I can find it. But they didn't, when they did the game, it seems like that wasn't the initial, like their initial intention. What actually ended up happening wasn't what they intended. And so, but what came from this was this amazing book. It's this little book, but it's just like one of my top 10 favorite books about deep play and living a very creative life, divine timing, all of these sorts of things. But it's called How Greatness Cannot Be Planned, The Myth of the Objective. And it's basically what they came to is that there is this process when really innovative new things happen where you follow these stepping stones, they call them, that you follow these things that draw you. Like say if you were a scientist, you know, that you would study this and then this piece and then bring this piece in. But there's something magical that happens. Now part of this is domain knowledge. So the thing is, you wouldn't necessarily be able to do it in a domain where you didn't have a real understanding of the field. Like I wouldn't be able to do it in science because I'm not a science person. I can do it in mysticism and the arts because I have an incredible field and domain of knowledge in those arenas, in the transformational fields, in deep play. I have, I'm a walking encyclopedia. But say for a scientist who is walking encyclopedia in their domain, or an engineer or an inventor, or whatever it is, that so you have this field of all of these potentials. And then if you intuitively just follow these instinctive things, at some point, some of these disparate things that are in your field of domain knowledge can slam together and make something that we never anticipated, like use things. And they use examples about how computers came from, is it vacuum cells or something? And airplanes, like there was a way that the pieces that made airplanes come together, that there were these things that nobody had ever realized would come together. Now to me, it's spirit, it's God, it's potential, it's our higher selves, it's the muses that actually bring it together. We like channel it because it's so revolutionary. Or maybe it's that 99% of our psyche that is the unknown that does this, that level of brilliance. But it's not our 1% that we're operating with. Things of this level of innovation don't come. And so the carrot principle is very much this myth of the objective. That's one of the things that the guys say in the book, is that don't start out with A and have a plan that I want to get to D, and that D looks like this. But our culture has this. It's very objective oriented. We want you to have a plan. We want you to back it up. And that's going to be how you are clearly super smart and super valuable, and you can control everything. Well, even smart scientists know, you can't control things. And artists totally know it, and mystics, of course. So there's this piece about the carrot principle, is that you keep doing this kind of jolly treasure hunt of, well, that's interesting. I'm going to go there now. I'm going to go here now. But once again, have this entitlement in a good way, this expectation that there could be points when things slam together that bring this whole new visionary potential. Love that more than anything. I live for that. That is my heroin. That is my drugs, is bringing things together that we didn't see. And that's what I try to set up for you in Deep Play, is to have some of those sorts of experiences so that you can feed more of them. I mean, we don't have them every day. Those don't happen every day, but you feed the fertile field of potential every day. And you feed what you love, and you make your domain knowledge more sophisticated so that you can be this place where these things come together. So here's a very specific, very embodied example of the carrot principle. So when I ended up finally finding the place, the Rainbow Canyon that I call it in Abiquiu here, where the above ground images, most of them are taken for the Oracle deck, it was a very serendipitous thing. When I moved to New Mexico, my job was to follow my passions and drive down roads. And I had already done the Earth and Body series, 25,000 images of those. That was the first images that weren't painted. So I'd been trained to follow the animation, follow the sparkles, and go, well, that road looks interesting. Let's go drive down there. Oh, that looks interesting. Let's stop and get out. So I was trained in that. And I love that. I still love that to this day. You know, like kind of getting lost on purpose, getting lost to get found. And so I had been in Abiquiu driving around, found this amazing place. If I ever do medicine walks here in New Mexico, you all will go there. And I found this amazing place. And I have a fear of heights. I learned in my 40s when I moved to New Mexico, I have a fear of heights. And so the universe says it is kind of funny and pokes at us. You know, they would occasionally have me have experiences where I'm like climbing kind of straight up cliff walls and stuff. Terrifying, basically nonstop. Help me, help me, help me. It's so fucking scary. And, you know, you have to work on courage. It's non-negotiable. It's non-negotiable. Doesn't mean your greatest terror has to come, but you got to work on courage. All of us do if we're going to be, you know, really deep players. So I get this, I see this kind of cliff thing up here that's like, hey, hey. So I'm like, okay. And, you know, when the sparkles are calling you, you can also bypass your logic, which sometimes can be good. You need to, because like I say, I don't want to deal with my fear of heights. But so I go and I'm like climbing up and I'm like, eeh. And actually now it doesn't look as scary as it did then, but it was kind of scary. And so I get up to the top of this mesa. And when I get up to the top of the mesa, then I can, you know, this ridge, then I can see over the edge of the ridge, and way back in there, I call it Rainbow Canyon Deep. It's this, it's quite a bit more of a hike in, but it's extraordinary. I don't go there that often because it's kind of a decent hike, but it was this red, you know, like female part. It all looks like female parts. Red, you know, thing. And I was like, what's that? You know, my whole body like freak out shivers, you know. That's animation. And sometimes it's quiet, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like, ah, like you got, you know, put your finger in the light socket. So that was the carrot principle, is that I was initially drawn by this thing that I had to climb up. And, you know, it was cool, but they wanted me to get to this high enough plateau, because when I was below, I couldn't see over there, high enough plateau to see that back there. Now, here's the thing. In trying to figure out how to get back there, I found where I did most of the pictures. So there was actually like, starting out at A, C was that Rainbow Canyon Deep, but I was supposed to go find B. And I went and found B because there was a fence and all this stuff. But so there was this whole setup, this whole domino effect. So that's, let's see, do I have... And then I would say, you know, the other thing is just the horses overall were just this kind of never-ending carrot of, oh, you're going to move to a horse ranch in Texas. Oh, you're going to go to these workshops. Oh, you're going to go on the Hopi pilgrimage. Oh, you know, all of these pieces that kept bringing me further into things that I really didn't have any experience with previously, like none, really out of left field. Okay, so there's that. There's also soul images, which we'll talk about probably at some point, but soul images are things, it can be soul experiences too. I have a lot of images because I'm so visual, but soul images, where there are images that really strike you that you see in a magazine or in an art gallery or at your friend's house or whatever in a book, and they prophesize who you're going to become. Soul images are amazeballs. Like I say, need a whole thing about soul images. All right, final one. Clearly kind of chatty today, but it's all good. I'm so happy. Do you see how nice this door is too? This door is beautiful. Oh, I should have opened the door to let the sunshine come in. Oh well, maybe might have. I'm in a goofy mood today. So, holy deficit. Oh, love holy deficit. Oh, now this one again, this is absolutely a spiritual paradox in the culture that we are in. This is absolutely, without a doubt, going against the grain of how you've been trained, how we've been trained. So how we've been trained is that we should be these, and there will be varying degrees of this. I'm being rather extreme, but I feel like the energetic fallout of the vulnerabilities and the perfectionism and the insecurities that come out of this is, nothing is all or nothing. But I feel like we've been trained to be experts and to act like we're experts and to act, unless you've gone the route of being super vulnerable and kind of like being a dog who bears your belly and like, I don't know anything. That's kind of the polarity of I know everything. And it's out of balance too, because some stuff, you just need a confidence upgrade. But so this holy deficit piece, this idea in the overculture that you are most valuable when you've got it under control. It's very masculine. I'm not saying specific men, but it's very masculine, is that I am the driver of my own ship and everything happens because I make it happen or I don't make it happen. It's not that simple at all. Absolutely, we have effect on what happens, but there are other, we're in a whole constellation of destinies and fates, and we're part of it. But so this holy deficit piece, this paradox, this spiritual paradox piece, is that you have this really beautiful and perfect, back to the constellation of characteristics that makes you who you are. And in this constellation of characteristics, you have things that you know and you understand and are gifts and things that you know how to do. And then there's things that you don't know how to do, things that you don't understand. And what I'm suggesting with holy deficit is there is a plan for both of those things. There's a plan for the skills and the tools that you innately do have. And there's a plan for some of these things that you don't know, because then you become as beginner's mind. You can come at things in ways that that if you thought you knew how they worked, you already had kind of a structure or a blueprint of how things were, then you would, most of us are very habituated. Humans are pattern seekers because we're trying to be safe. And we're trying to look for patterns so that we can go, well, that didn't work very well for me last time, so we're not going to go there. And the thing is, fortunately, unfortunately, in going into that not known place, sometimes we do have to go back to those places where it didn't quite work, or it was painful, or we got initiated, or we hit somebody else's wounds or aggression or something. And sometimes we do need to go back there, but it could be a different experience. But so the holy deficit piece is that you have things that you don't know for a reason, and it's a gift. It's a gift. You're not insufficient. You're not inadequate. There's something that things that you're supposed to do or be. Now, it might be that some of the things that you don't know, you are to come more into relationship with, but coming at things with a beginner's mind is phenomenal. I mean, I've found over my life, because now I've had so many different arcs in my life, and I've gone, such out of left fields and taken such left turns and right turns and gone backwards, that I actually crave it now. I actually crave it. Like I'd say probably every 2 to 5 years, if I don't either move, have some major new project, go into some new community, I kind of freak out because it feels stagnant to me. But I have an insane need for experience, insane need. So my needs are really high in that. But this holy deficit is coming to this place where you can really respect who you are, all of who you are. I would even say holy deficit is the places where you struggle. Like for me, I'm very excitable. I can also be very impatient, like super impatient. And they're kind of a similar energy. Like the excitable, sometimes it's hard to separate, like they're both kind of there. Like anxiety and excitement feel very similarly in my gut. So there, but I'm not always impatient, but sometimes I am. And sometimes there's things that you can't be impatient with. And sometimes it bites me in the ass. And, divine timing wise, I've judged a lot of things in my life about the rollout and the timing that they've had. And my ego has thought that thing should have fucking happened 5 years ago. Well, it didn't, for whatever reason, whatever constellation of reasons. But so I've struggled. I mean, that's one of the places I struggle is this kind of impatient sometimes, or I want it yesterday, or I want it how I want it to look, which is, all of us. So the holy deficit is, can we look at it more as like an innocence, like you're a toddler who's coming, like the whole world is ecstatic, like, oh my God, I can kind of walk. There was somebody's grandchild, I was with them, and the child was learning how to walk. And to watch the body, because I've done ecstatic dancing and stuff, to watch the body and how the upper part of the body was trying to find this balance so they wouldn't fall, and what the lower legs were doing. I was mesmerized watching this child try to learn how to walk. Oh, I feel like that's what we're doing with holy deficit, and embracing it and going, I mean, how amazing it must feel in that child's body with a sense of power and newness and sensuality to like be feeling these muscles that they didn't even know existed, before they became upright. So holy deficit is something that I would invite you to, if you have kind of a list of, well, I know how to do this, but I don't know how to do this and this and this and this. Look at that list of, I don't know how to do this and this and this and this. And look at if there's some things on that list that you actually would like more of, but don't go at it from a deficit place. Go at it from a, oh, this is a new territory. This is unknown terrain that I could go into, and then approach it not as, and we all feel vulnerable. I feel vulnerable. Everyone feels vulnerable. You go into a new place, and like when I went into the horse world and these people know everything and I don't, but I was okay. I was able to self-soothe and go, okay, I don't know. And I'm willing to ask questions and be humble and not know. And so consider this list. Some of those have some animation. Some of those I don't know how. And consider that you might embrace them, but embrace them in a positive way instead of I'm coming at this from a one down situation. Go, wow, maybe there's some reason that, I waited till I was 54 to learn this. Like, wow, and what are those potentials? Like, really go at it from a whole different perspective. I mean, that's the whole thing with Rabbit Hole Ready, is basically you're looking at everything from a different perspective than what we've been taught. So some examples about, my best example about holy deficit is tarot. So I am surrounded by tarot people. I love you humans. You are my peeps. I love you. And you guys fucking love tarot. You geek out. You love it. And I love what people love, if it doesn't hurt other people. I love it. So I love that you love tarot. I love it. I like tarot. I think tarot's cool as fuck. I mean, I love cards, obviously. Like I have 10 decks now or whatever that I've made, but I was blocked in a good way from learning that system because that system is really powerful. It's a really powerful structure. The tarot system, it's built over time. There's been a lot of people who fed it. There's been a lot of magic. There's been a lot of power. I mean, that's why people love it. It's amazing. Um, but if that had been in my psyche with how strong of an imprint it has, I don't believe that I could have created the Oracle of Initiation, something that was very much its own system. Now, it has a little bit of connection to the tarot, but if the tarot would have like bled through and influenced the Oracle of Initiation, and it wasn't supposed to. I was supposed to create something new. So it was a holy, it is a holy deficit. I know the majors decently, but I don't know the other ones that well. You watch, I will always defer to someone else in deep play for the, doing a tarot, interpretation, because it's not my great love. I really like it and I respect it and I meet the people I want through it, but it's not my jam. I'm an oracle. I'm a surrealist. I'm a Dadaist. I want to make something fucking new. I want something new. And so what could that be in your life where and maybe, I don't know, maybe at 70 like tarot will completely take me over and I'll make a tarot deck and I'll become like the tarot maniac and I'll make a tarot garden and I don't even know, like there will be a tarot TV show. I don't know, but right now I'm really happy being an oracle and using some tarot, of course. And then, yeah, note-wise, and then also the horses, same sort of a thing, came totally beginner's mind to them. Didn't even want to ride them. That wasn't a main focus, is I wanted them to be these shamanic mirrors, which some of the horses are extraordinary at. Not all the horses. Only some of the horses have chosen to be like earth healers. Some of them just want to be horses. Like, leave me the fuck alone. I'm going to go run. But, I feel like there's this kind of new age thing of always needing to fix yourself. And I need another certification and I need another open heart workshop and I need another this, that, and the other because I'm not quite fixed. I'm not quite good enough. That's insulting to your soul at a certain point. Here's the thing. We all do have healing to do. Absolutely. Oh my God. I spent decades. I had a lot of healing to do from the stuff that came down and then how I reacted to the stuff that went down. But there's a certain point where you reach a critical mass where you got to go, I got a lot of good stuff and I'm going to look at the good stuff and go, I'm human, so I've got other stuff. But feed those parts where you feel good about yourself. We spend so much time which tarot card is that, you guys, where there's the spilt cups and the cups behind the person. You all know. I can't remember which one it is. 6? Anyway, so look at Holy Deficit in this very nourishing, nurturing, empowering sort of a way of, wow, why don't I know that? Maybe I'm supposed to innovate and go do something new. Or maybe I'm just never supposed to know that. Maybe that's not my thing. And it doesn't need to be my thing. And I don't need to kind of mope around and go, oh, but other people that I admire kind of know that thing. Maybe it's not your thing. That's a huge discernment, is what is yours and what's not. That weaves into all of this. Total rabbit hole ready. Where do you go down the rabbit hole and where it's like, no, not mine. It's supposed to be there. So that is my whole, let's make sure I think that's what we've got. That's my thoughts on rabbit hole ready. And so this is the 3rd video. Let's see if this video sticks around at all. What the fuck? Divine timing, divine timing, divine timing, divine timing. Well, you got a new video today, and with this beautiful door, even this chair. Isn't the color of this chair beautiful? All right, it's sunny in New Mexico. I'm happy. Love y'all. Happy deep play.